Greetings and salutations, and as you can see, we are back with more Ashes of Creation. Now, I know it's been a while since I played it. I've been missing out on playing it. I really do like it. Oh, that's cool. They give trail speed. So if you're on the trail, you get more speed. That's really cool. Thank you. I was wondering why it was not functioning there, but hey, alpha, so makes sense. But no, it's been a while since I played it, and I've been wanting to get back into it and play it some more. But of course, I have to do other things for the channel, and I have to also um work on other like other certain things. They're gonna catch me. Ah, they caught me. I thought I was out of combat there, and I was not. It's tragic. Sorry about that. I had to disconnect my phone. I had it charging, and I was using my computer to charge it. But that's all right. No, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Obviously it's loading shaders, so it's dipping into my PC, and when it loads like that, it's obviously I'm double dipping into my GPU because I'm recording at the same time. That's why it kind of causes more problems. However, I still like the game. I just can't seem to. I can't seem to find enough time to sit down and continue playing it all the time. I mean, maybe if I was doing streaming, which I don't really want to get back into, at least not yet. I might in the future. But I figured if I was getting into streaming, I could, or if I got back into streaming, I could theoretically play this more often. Because I could just play it on stream, and then people could come along and watch the journey unfold, and that sort of thing. While recording, though, it's a completely separate animal. I personally like the whole recording with YouTube. I really do. Because it allows you to have more of a flexible usage of your time, right? Like I could record 2 videos, 3 videos tonight, and then turn around and there you go. There's 3 days worth of videos, right? And people would say, well, when are you going to put up 2 videos? I think that is when people start getting into content burnout, right? Once you start getting into content burnout, that's when you start having a problem. Because then it feels like it's a job. This doesn't feel like a job. This feels like I get on, I do 3 to 4 hours worth of recording. I make my own thumbnails, which sometimes they take a bit because I am completely inept at what I'm looking for. It's not editing. I'm completely inept at art within reason. It's like the ineptitude comes in when creating certain things, right? like any form of actual graphical editing creation, completely inept at. So MS Paint, Photoshop, um, you name it. If you slap me down in front of something, I cannot for the life of me photo edit. Um, I have an artistic eye when taking photographs. It's completely different. I can take a look at a photograph and say, "Hey, you know what? That looks cool. That will, that'll be a stylish viewpoint, or that's, you know, really a gorgeous like area." But anything else, it's sort of like, hey, you need to edit this thing. Forget it. Just just break my fingers. It's better off. Ooh, somebody's chopping down a tree. I had a bit of a philosophical moment earlier. I was paying school taxes, right? So I went down to the local school, went in, and they were like, "Well, sorry about the delay." I said, "Well, that's all right. I'm in no rush. I never am. Never in a rush to go anywhere. Never in a rush to do anything. There's no point in being in a rush. There's just no point." And so they're like, "Well, that's a good viewpoint to have." And I said, "Yeah, it is." And then I went further and I said, "It's kind of funny that it's the paradoxical value we live in life. We we often say it's my corpse. Don't tell me I don't have permission for this action." What? I can't even pick up my own stuff. Wow, thanks, game. It's an alpha, so whatever. Yeah, bugs happen. Wasn't worth anything anyway. I think that's where I need to be, right down there. Is that where I need to be? Drive away the Iron Shod Minotaur invasion. Unlug it. Let me give this one more go to try to loot my stuff. Anyway, I said we often I can't even interact with it. I said we often waste our time, but yet it's the most precious and valuable thing to us. Truthfully. Like, because once you spend all your time's gone. Right? You spend your time and you have nothing left, right? And that's just the way it is. That's just the fact of life. And, people kind of look at it like they really don't want to have that almost fatalistic approach to it, but it's like, you can't sugarcoat it, folks. Wow. And another body I can't. You know what? I'm going to go back. I'm going to switch my character. I'm going to play the mage. Because this is just getting ridiculous. I can't loot my bodies. And I just died again. So we're going to play the mage. No, we don't value time the way we should. Because if you think about it, time is limited. We only have so many days, hours, years on this planet. All of us. And every single person is all limited by that time. And then you really contemplate.
Portals got Nick. Listen, these are due when you're ready.
Okay, cool. Beautiful. We all have the same limited amount of time. Effectively. And yet, we don't ever want to invest our time into other people or into other things. We don't sit there and, quantify people or quantify the time we spend as an investment, right? We don't look at, what we do and say, yes, we're investing time in this person. We're investing time in this, that, or the other thing. We just immediately just figure it's a waste. Or it's not a waste. And when it comes to other people, and
thank you, reward.
When it comes to other people and investing time into other people. Let's see, hurl. 1 second. Hurl a bolt of fire towards your target, dealing fire damage and apply burning. 3 charges. Hurl a ball of fire. Let's try firebolt. Try that. Oh. We'll do the running, I guess. We haven't leveled up enough the weapon yet. But anyway, we don't invest enough time into other people, right? We look at our friends and we just kind of look at it like, okay, yeah, we all have, like, time. We treasure the time we share, but we don't look at it like a complete investment. And it's almost kind of sad in a way that we don't look at it like this massive investment. We should. Right? That people will go into relationships and get out of relationships, and the first thing they think is, oh, well, it's just a relationship. It's like, okay, but look at the time you just wasted there. Look at the time you invested into this individual. Oops. Is that a magic blade? No, that's another focus. It's like, look at the time you invested into this individual, right? Just to be essentially cold and distant to them in the future. You just spent all this currency called time investing into an individual. And now you've just thrown it all away. Well, that's not good. That's not good at all. And people don't quantify time in that way of thinking that you're investing the time into something, that you should cherish what you're investing the time into. Which is why there needs to be more discernment when dealing with relationships of any type, whether they be romantic or platonic. If they're platonic relationships and your friends are being toxic, then by all means, you should really reevaluate this and say, is it worth my time to keep investing in it? Some people, you'll find out that it might not be worth the time. And that's something I've learned throughout my life. But instead, people of the world today invest in things like aesthetics and other. They invest in aesthetics and money more so than anything else. Now, that's not saying that they're wrong, but when you invest in things like money, aesthetics, instead of time, and you're worried more about money and aesthetics than time, you often make the mistake of throwing away your most valuable resource for things that are temporary. Even though time is indeed a resource, it is also how do I want to put this? Time is also temporary as well. Yes, it is. We all live by the same rate of time, right? There. Here. That's cool. But no, time is temporary, right? Because we only have so much limited amounts of it. But in the same regard of it being temporary, why do we waste it so frivolously, right? Anything worth doing takes time. We all know this. And it just seems to me like people will spend time or invest their time into going after things like money or aesthetics when both are fleeting at a much quicker rate, instead of investing into people and experiences. Now, of course, you're going to have those individuals that will say, well, what about here on YouTube? You talk about all this, you know, philosophical stuff, and yet here you are on YouTube making videos. And how is that not a frivolous waste of time for many? And that's left up to the person. If the viewer sees it as a waste, then it's a waste. But if the viewer can gain something from it, whether it be a bit of insight, a new thought, anything at all. If a user can glean something from it, then why shouldn't they, right? I'm not going to be the one to tell people, hey, you can't, you shouldn't watch this, or you shouldn't watch that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be the arbiter or the gatekeeper of what people should and should not watch. I can make suggestions, sure. But whether or not they take the suggestions is purely up to them, right? Same thing can be said for philosophy. And then I had the conversation with the tax lady at the same time. I said, the age of philosophers is dead and gone. And she says, you're right. Now it's the age of the influencer. And that's the problem. Philosophers gave you food for thought. Philosophers allowed you to expand your mind by thinking critically. Influencers try to get you to reduce your mind. They try to get you to simplify your mind into mindless consumption. You know, buy this, go do that, come watch this. Oh, bro, this was so fire, etc. And it's reductive. What it does is it basically tries to take what you have in life and it says, okay, well, we don't want you to think. We want you to act. We want you to consume. We want you to behave in a certain way. Philosophy is about critical thinking, right? And expanding critical thinking. And to me, that's very important. Critical thinking is one of the most important things in the world. And the reason being is because there is a power structure that does not want you to have critical thinking. Because if you have critical thinking, you are a threat to the power structure. If you can think, you can question, and if you can question, you can ruin their plans. That's why they don't want critical thinking. That's why philosophers are laughed at. That's why anybody that has philosophical thoughts don't gain traction. But the rampant consumerism that exists in, say, everyday media and influencers, that gains traction. I have to respond to a text. I am sorry. Then, on the walk home, I had a very poignant thought. Now, I want people to not really... I don't want people to look into it like I'm trying to create this depressing point. Because I'm not. I'm not. This was pure speculational, speculational. Here I go making words. It was purely a speculation. It was just a thought I had. You had all those people, and this is what it kind of dovetailed in from the whole limited amount of time. You have a ton of people that are like, oh, well, I'm in control of my life. Are you really? Let's think about it. Let's say you believe that you're in control of your life. Okay? So, there's your life, and you're like, I got this. I know what I'm doing. I've got it sorted out. But there's an issue. And that issue is, do you really have it sorted out? Because if you think about it, let's say you say, oh, well, I run my life. Okay, that means you can do anything at any time, anywhere, and there's no consequences. So you don't have to go into work. There should be no consequences if you run your life, right? You can go speeding down the highway. Cops can't pull you over, right? Do you really run your life? It's an illusion. There are boundaries in which we are allowed to run our lives. And in those boundaries, we find out that, well, we don't really run our lives. We live under the illusion that we're running our lives. We believe that we are in control of things, when in actuality, the control of things is merely tenuous at best. Right? Now, some people will sit there and be like, but I can choose to do this and I could choose to do that. Very true. You can. Absolutely. 100%. You can make those choices. But did you truly make them, or were they preordained? Now, there is that thought, that mindset, that a lot of what goes on in life... Wow, that was 115 damage. You just fragged the dude. That was interesting. There are people that believe that your life is preordained before you. That everything you do is happening for a reason. Almost like a string theory, almost like, almost like the things you do, the actions you take have minimal impact, but impact nonetheless, okay? I'm not saying that the things you do don't have impact at all. Not at... Because of course they have impact. But I'm saying that if things happen, if everything happens for a reason, and the reason is unbeknownst to us, wouldn't that mean that there's some sort of grand thing going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to that's creating these things that happen? Just random thought. I think about random things when I'm in that philosophical mood. Let's go on the assumption that things aren't preordained. Let's go on the assumption that everybody does have complete control of their life. Are you where you want to be? If you're not where you want to be, take control. Be where you want to be. Then again, I've often said that the universe puts you where you need to be. Never where you want to be, but where you need to be. Now, people like to think that that's a weird phrase. And there are people that go out there and they, like, again, they commit to the grind, right? You'll have those people that say, oh, you're not out there, you're not grinding hard enough, you're not doing this, you're not hustling, whatever they want to call it. It's nonsensical speech anyway. But they'll say that you're not working hard enough, right? And I asked them, I posed this question. For what do I work? For what do I get? And they say, oh, well, you're doing it for money. Okay, that's it. That's the only reason I'm doing it. Is a pocketbook? Is to just increase my pocketbook? Well, of course, you need that to survive. That makes sense. But let's realistically look at this. If it's just for the monetary effect, I guess that's drive enough. But why work so hard? There was a philosopher that once said, and I can't remember exactly who the philosopher was. I almost want to say it's Confucius, but I could be wrong. He said that when it comes to life, if you are... Think of life as going down the street, right? if you're going down the stream of life, you should just go with the flow. Essentially, go with the flow. They say, I believe the phrasing went something in the ballpark of like, when in the stream of life, swimming against the current only makes you tired. Swimming with the current will shoot you beyond where you belong. And just letting the current take you will put you where you need to be. That's quite poignant. And the reason that is quite poignant is because if you, let's say you try hard, really, really hard, and you overshoot where you need to go. I didn't find the Explorer, did I? No, I did not. He's right over here. So, if you start putting in a ton of effort and you go way past where you need to be, you will almost assuredly find yourself having a setback. Not because you became too successful. No. Quite the contrary. Because you went too far. And the universe said, no. It's time to course correct. You need to be here. You went too far. And so that course correction will bring you back where you need to be. People don't like to believe that because, again, people have this belief system in their head that there is... Find the next one. Okay. They have this belief system in their head that there is only one, I have control of my life and no one else, right? And they put themselves as this all-important thing. And there comes to a point where it's like, sometimes life gives you that interesting, I almost want to say like, wake up slap, for lack of a better term, right? Life kind of sits you down and says, you know what? You thought you knew where you were headed in life. You thought you knew what you wanted in life. But, ta-da, you didn't. And then it pulls you back and says, it's time to reevaluate things. That's happened to me a few times in my life, as a matter of fact. And being able to step back and being able to reevaluate things in your life is a valuable skill. Being able to disconnect yourself from what's currently going on. And I don't mean like completely disconnect, like not let it bother you. I'm saying disconnect from the noise, right? Let me elaborate. Something occurs in your life. And it causes emotions. You get emotionally charged. A lot of people do, right? Something will come up, they'll get emotionally charged, and then they'll act on those emotions very rashly. Okay? Now, when people act on those emotions rashly, what happens? Mistakes are made. Things happen. Sometimes bad things happen. Sometimes good things happen. But generally, when people act rashly, bad things happen. So, knowing this, what's the best course of action? Well, the best course of action would be to take your emotions out of the equation and just kind of look at the world for what it is. Logically, rationally, and sit down and go, okay, if I was seeing this from an outside perspective, what advice would I give myself? And that's kind of the thing, is you ask yourself, like, what advice would I give myself if I was listening to me? Oh, that is not good. Ooh, got him. But there comes that point in time. There comes that point in life where it's like, okay, let's think about this rationally. Rationally speaking, what would I say to me, or what would I say to that person? Even though it's happening to you, what would you say to that person if you were the one giving advice? Right? Because some of the times we have that third person perspective where we can look at something else that's going on and say, you know what? I've got a piece of advice and it ends up being really good. Not all advice is good. Not all advice works either. Some advice that you give is sound advice. It's just not applicable at that moment. Might be applicable later, just not applicable immediately. Believe me, I've had that happen too. Once gave a piece of advice and they thought that I was insane. They also looked at me like, you shouldn't give that advice. It's a very bad idea. And I said, well, it's advice for when it's apropos. Well, they weren't too happy about it, but nevertheless, they kind of dealt with it. And so I just kind of, I sit there and I think to myself, what advice would I give me if I was, per se, looking at it from a perspective of, I'm the third person, I'm the third party in this. What would I tell myself if I, or I'm the first party in this right now, but what would I tell myself if I was the third party in this? Effectively. And when people do that, they realize something. That if you're able to disengage and disconnect from it and disconnect your emotions from that moment and think rationally of how best you would give somebody else advice that has just gone through that, you find yourself thinking more rationally. And when you think rationally, your decisions become rational. When your decisions become rational, you don't rush to a judgment, you don't rush to a conclusion, and you don't act very rashly toward people. And in general, that's not always the case, but in general, you will come to a better conclusion, one way or the other. It will usually be a better conclusion for all people included in the end, for all parties included. Of course, there's always the chance, much like with anything, that it goes wrong. Because nothing in life is foolproof. Or as they said, nothing in life is foolproof to a sufficiently talented fool. but we're given the illusion of control. You think about it. When you're growing up, when you're like 5, 6 years old and you just go to kindergarten, you have to listen to the teachers. When you come home, you have to listen to your parents. That happens till you get to be 18. Then you're legally your own guardian. Okay. So if you're legally your own guardian, are you truly in control? Well, yes and no. You still have to follow laws, rules, regulations, all these things. So you never really are in control 100%. But living inside of those rules, regulations, and everything doesn't really matter. Because you can't really break free of those rules and regulations. You can't become independent from it, right? Yes, we have free will, but there's a limit to that free will. Let's see, Fireball and Firebolt now apply staggered. Firebolt gains 25 direct damage. Fireball gets bonus burning damage. Whoa. I mean, come on now, dude. Wanted Fireball, not Firebolt, but whatever. We'll tinker with it. Ah, okay. It has to be off cooldown for you to respec. Got it. Checks out. That's fine. That doesn't mean, like, the things that I've talked about today about control, and if you really have control, that doesn't mean to go out there and be like, yes, YOLO. Not at all. I'm not saying that in the least. I'm saying that people should consider time and consider all the things going on in their life before being too rash, effectively. And that we live in this paradox where, like I said earlier, we are in control but out of control. We are in control to a degree that we can make decisions, and those decisions affect us, and we become product of circumstance of those decisions, right? but we're not in control because there are things that have control over us. So we live in this constant state of juxtaposition every day. And the only thing we can really do, in all honesty, is to just make the best of it. Quite literally. You make the best of it, and you look at life, smile, enjoy your days, and that kind of thing. That's kind of what life's about. Life is about the enjoyment of things. Examine the item I found on the corpse. Oh. Maybe maybe it's just the way I perceive things. Maybe it's the way I was raised. I was raised to think about things with an open mind and to really kind of have perspective. Right? And it's always been that way, to kind of have that perspective. There could be a detriment there. There could 100% be a detriment there. Where's that guy? Oh. Access regulator drain. Where's the other guys? The Keeper Tomorrow. He's probably back in that cave, isn't he? Yeah, probably. Can I teleport from these places? That would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? And this is another thing, and I do want to make this point. I do want to make this very salient point. I truly appreciate all the people that watch. And the reason I appreciate all the people that watch is because, again, your time is valuable. Me recording this, alright, it's just my time spent recording. No big deal. But you viewers watching this, taking the time out of your day to sit down, watch this, and just kind of I don't know, have a little bit of fun. I guess it means a lot. It does mean a lot to me, truthfully. Because it makes all things possible. Truly. We're gonna try Frost. Well, that was a fail. I truly appreciate it. I really do. Honestly, for truly. Because you could watch anything else. Anything else, right? And be entertained. I'm sure that me waxing philosophically playing Ashes of Creation isn't what I would say is highly regarded as highly entertaining. It might be somewhat educational, and it might be somewhat insightful. It's, especially when I'm in this mood, definitely philosophical. And I know a lot of people don't like the whole philosophical thing, but at the same time, like, how many people really do philosophical talks on YouTube? Not many. And I really wish people would, as I think it's something that is desperately needed in today's society, where we need to have people expand their minds. I mean, expanding your mind is not necessarily. People like to think it's some sort of deep cognitive thought process, and it really isn't. It's just taking a look at something that's always existed and start questioning it. That's it. It helps deepen your understanding of things. Eventually, you'll get to the point when you start seeing things, you immediately will take a step back and go, okay, and start questioning it. It doesn't matter what it is. And of course, you'll be met with resistance. You'll have people calling you everything from, conspiracy theorists to wacky, crazy. They'll do it. Every single one of them will do it, right? But don't let that dissuade you. Really don't, because questioning things and coming to new conclusions, or being able to take a look at something and say, now I don't believe that that's the case, and drawing your own conclusions. That's where we truly have control, is drawing our own conclusions and in our own minds. We truly have control in there. Our headspace is the only place where we have free reign and can do anything. We could be as creative as we want. We could be anything we want in our own minds. And people say, well, imagination's for kids. Yes, it is. But where does it say you have to stop behaving like a child at a certain age? It doesn't. The world wants you to stop doing it because the world is afraid of your creative abilities. And so they try to stymie. They try to stymie people's creativity. They try to prevent them from becoming themselves. They try to prevent them from going out there and embracing that creative side. Think about it. It'll be the last thing I say before I sign off. Think about it. You're born. The first 4 years of your life, 5 years of your life, what happens? Your mind wanders. You create. You imagine. Look at all the kids with brilliant imaginations. My nephew was the same way. And he still has a brilliant imagination. Trust me on this one. My nephew's the same way. My niece is the same way. They have brilliant imaginations. And they imagine. And they make this fanciful world that only they have control over. What happens when you get into school? They slowly take that away. Through regimentation. You have to remember this. You have to remember that. It doesn't do you any good to imagine. They try to beat that out of you. Not physically, but mentally. They try to drill it out of your head that imagination doesn't matter. And they do this. And then you go into college and they do it again. I often say that the most educated people think the least. The more you get educated, the less you question. The more you get educated, the less you think. And I don't mean question as in like, is this valid information? No, you stop questioning critically. You stop asking the critical questions. Because you're like, well, this is what they told me. Okay. But have you tested it to see if it's verified? Not just for the sciences, I'm saying all over. Question everything. Like one of the founding fathers said, question everything with boldness. And then you go into work. You're not allowed to imagine. You're not allowed to be imaginative. Yet the people that have invented the most were the most imaginative people. The people that have gone out and created these massive leaps in technology, these massive leaps in society, these massive leaps in anything. These are the most imaginative people. These people weren't the ones that sat there and diligently worked the hardest. No, they had a thought and they said, what if? And then they went and they did it and they built it and they made it and they went through the whole process. But it all started off with what if? Imagination. The divine creative spark. That's how it all starts. That is where we have the true control, is our mind and our imagination. So don't lose your imagination. It's the only thing you truly have. Like William Shakespeare said, I think, therefore I am. On that note, I want to leave you with this, with thanking you for coming out and enjoying this video, or thank you for coming out and watching this video. If you enjoyed it, I hope you did. I did as well. I hope everybody has a fantastic evening, a wonderful tomorrow, and as always, have a good one.